Felt like being a little bit unadventurous today, location system and track communications. It's all levels of the inner child, set line conditions. It's really powerful when you understand your set lines, how good its positions or interference, it directs signal locations and positions. You look at it at a correlation setting and positions of make believe, but the make believe becomes the believable, and the believable starts seeing lines as track location settings and directions to understand how to modify these line streams and set location systems, right? It's really powerful when you come into all calculations to your system, okay? There's a lot of energy line streams and set locations. You really have to understand that we're all connected to each other. We have never been separated in any way and form. Now we're all together in set location system. We all have to have the same frequency settings, the same line interference of barometers and thermometers and set location settings into your behavior location system. Or you guys are going to repeat your line settings to site location system. Now, there's no longer a calculation and position of track lines into dogma or in dharma, but the line setting and string line interference has to be recognition of communication time sequence, puts positional force recognition line calculations and correlation settings and direct signals. Setting that in position location sets up your barometers and line calculation string lines into your thermometer location system. Your heat signature patterns, your correlation line settings, directing signal locations, your geographical line interference, your cluster line calculation settings, all track communication to its information panel. Okay. So it's important you understand that we're coming to higher levels of a line setting in direct locations of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is coming into her behavioral location patterns. She's setting up a new line setting, coming into all levels, leaving the old cycles and coming into new line setting interference. Communication with position location is triangulation line positions. The operation line streams is set location in 24,000 line settings. Now that's direct locations of 48,000 lines of window sectors over pi. That correlates line interference to 72,000 computers in one frame, one division, one location, and 24 ground setting. Okay. So we all have to understand how to use the 0 to 9 to 12 set location settings. And the only way to understand that is to understand your position locations when it comes into your binary setting. Okay. So we come into the cryogenetic line stream. Now that sets line conditions to one line center interference and track communication system. You guys are no longer on the hour lines. You're in the seconds, minutes, and hour setting. So that's going to change the frame lines into your adaptations to your navigation system. That's going to change lines calculation setting, how you see yourself through your quantum system. Quantum mechanics, quantum line stream, quantum line inline rotations, physics 101, it doesn't matter. What matters, do you understand the balance of communication setting when you communicate to your system, which all levels of line calculation setting and direction is all positions of balance inside location. Everything that generals say is in chronological order of understanding, which is understood, which is already done in its equation location system. Everything is calculated and modified. So remember, you're not in precog line setting. You're in position location of the memory line. That centralizes communication at future adaptation circuits. You see 3 lines of 4 lines of high track communication, 7 lines of positions. Those position line centers is 7 days a week line communications. Future adaptations, that sees your lines a visionary line. That's a visionary cortex location in all levels. A video graph line set location streamline into your cerebral location to its placebo. Setting the correlation line interference is setting track communication to your behavioral locations of patterns. All right. The recognition of time sequence has to understand the communication to your heart line rotation. It's going to palpitate line stream and set lines calculation line interference. It's going to skip channel operation line settings, and it's going to set a position location and perimeters and parameter line and rotations. Now you're in 66 volumes, setting track lines and sign line high interference, psychomatic line and rotations into semetics, calculations and position locations. Now this is where we come into a pentagraph. Now pentagraph line, sign line interference is a pentagram. Center calculations into all levels of pathogens, streamlines calculations, hieroglyphic location of channels, aerodynamics. We come into the size graph line string. The size activity line interference and position location volumes is calculation settings. Telepathy signatures and patterns on a rotation surface sets communication to its position. This opens all triangle line calculation settings and its directions to the system. Okay. So we come into line interference, mother line, string lines, or line rotation position location is 9 and trimester. That modifies her position location, center lines, and calculations. All right. Hope everybody had a good weekend. All right, getting direct signals, set lines, calculation lines of center line, position, location, operation, surface. All right, zero track lines of 9, set location of 3 sets, and position of 12 set locations. All right, so center line communications. So line setting is really understand the 6 lines, position locations, and the 9, take a 9 line center interference. So you always have to understand how to use the 9 lines of 3, because 3 lines is 3 set location system, a double helix. All right. So the center communications, every time it goes around the clock line, I'm just showing exactly what it is through provision. You have to recognize these communication line settings and directions. All right. So yin and yang process line, right? 6 lines of 9 line rotations. Now, in direction signals, it's a location system, sets left calculation line and position location of 12 line settings. So at the top, right? So that's a 24 line stream in set location system in balance setting. It opens all line calculations. So you take this and this in positions to affinity 8 rotation. Okay, see the intelligence? Directing signals is really understand how to use it through pi calculation line settings. So 0 lines equal lines of 1, equal lines calculations of 1 line rotations into 12 lines in position of the 1 line sector. Okay, so that's 1 lines of 3 and 3 lines of 9 and 9 lines of 3, 3 in set location system. That's how it creates a barometer line setting and a thermometer. Setting calculations in position of pi lines of 3 set location directions. Directing line signals, setting calculations. So we take the 12 line signature patterns and behavior location system and 12 line settings and measure and correlation system of a double helix and rotation surface in position locations. All right, that gets complicated. Complicated is good because the foundation graph lines, the center line of rotation interference, has to recognize communications of Mother Earth and so location of ground lines. Operational line settings. So she's off signal until she gets in position locations and balanced line position. Now, when you get in balanced position location track line, we take the 0 lines operation 9. That center line sits 3. We circle line 3 set locations. So they calculate these lines. That's 3 seconds over line positions. Right? So if you go around twice on a clock line of 12, that's 24, right? So every time it goes around, it's going through a 4 cycle line connection system of your elements, grounds, powers, and atmosphere line settings. Okay? 3 line settings. Okay? That's position, location, and position. Now you have to understand how to use the 4 lines of your elements. Okay? Which is positions of your earth, which is connected to your airs, your waters, and your fires. And you use that line calculated setting in direct line signals to your senses that's connected to who your position locations of 5 and 3 line centers. 5 center line interference of 3 set location directions. That's 8 over setting. That puts it in an infinity cycle line positions, right? So you have to understand why you have a center calculation of 8. Infinity of 8 is your senses. It's very simple to understand these things. 7 over 1 line in positions of positive or negative, setting correlation line interference. This is where we come into line tracking, set lines, high division location, your geometric patterns, and position your binary coline setting. So we're going to retrack Mother Earth and set location to a new binary reline setting, travel communication behavior pattern line rotation, and position infinity cycles to an atom line setting. It's rotation, surface, location, position, attraction. Okay, done by equation. All right. So getting in that position locations, that's done through equation, by the way. So everything I said is already done. Everything I draw is already done. You're just coming into experiencing it now. Okay. So all you have to do is get into the chronological order of 3 sets. Position of 0, 9, and 12 set locations. That's it. And 3 sets on line connections. So you have 3 seconds of barometer through an airline center rotation as center line positions are going forward, right? Because if you're not going forward, you're going back in set locations in its directions to set location, right? So that doesn't work, does it? There's no yin and yang line setting. It's a paradox locations. And the 3 line setting line interference, the wave and line central system will come in position location of lacing lines. Come in quantum line interference and communication setting, indirect signals and set location system, all levels of confusion, location, line connection, high position attraction, right? You don't want this. So that's important to understand how to use your 0, equal lines of 9, lines of 3 seconds, high center line interference of 12 line settings and positions, puts position locations of a 24 line cycle and set locations. Okay. So This is all calculated and modified how you set position of track lines, your behavior location to your settings. We understand body division. Now, body division locations, let's go through the pyramid line rotation interference. So locations, settings, directions. Graph lines, line interference of 45 positions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have 6 line centers. Okay, graph line streams. Setting position location of 6 and 6 location setting. Directed signals. Moon lines, line rotation interference comes in direct location setting and position. Now, the center line sets up the ground line operation stream location and positions. Okay, so you got the sun and the moon line or interference of 6 location settings. That's 6 over line, 6 over track, and communications. Archetypes, division line rotation surface, sets lines of communication, and center calculation streamline set locations. Now, directing signals is really understand how to set lines of 3, position location of 3. You bring 3, 3 in position locations, creates a double helix. We got in that communication or setting to position the higher self to the avatar. Setting calculation streamlines the set location system. Line position location is line crossing signals and position locations of yin and yang of 6 lines and 9 locations. Done by equation. All right. So, how to set these things up is really understand how to use track communication to your settings. We understand your behavioral locations. So, it's all about understanding the binaries, set lines of calculation lines, the graph lines. Film strips location of 6 and position of 6 line because you're in fundamental location of channels 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that's 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Then set lines of 4 lines and 4 lines of set locations, and 5 sets line condition of the center line direct setting. Okay, and 6 sets position of the center operation. Okay, so we got 2 5-line channels, 4 line streamline conditions. So position of solar line, calculation line, position location of east, and position location of west and north, and set locations and south line calculation stream. Okay. So directing line streams and set location is line setting directions. We go through 1 position locations of 1, 2, 3, 4 and set locations, directing signals. Now, when you get a directing line setting, you have to really understand how to coordinate its location to its behavior location settings, rotation location, oscillogics, changing correlation lines of colors in set location setting. So we set 3 in line setting in space, and we set 3 line settings of time. Okay, and the same position location of track line information, right? So Mother Earth lines its rotation surface, sets a triangulation line, and it defeats line setting, line rotation interference, a plateau, correlation line, position location, highest setting. Sets lines of communications to its diamond core, a set location and directions. This channels its line setting, higher calculation position of calculations, all right? So we go into the weather line, streamlines, and galaxy line, strip line, interference, and position location and calculation. That way equation. All right, so it's all about metro scaling her settings and directions, how to use your behavioral locations to your system. Understanding voice line streams and set positions of traction. So we got line setting and rotation surface, the alpha line rotation surface calculation of voice grid location setting directions. 0 lines of operation, and we got in that line interference. Now that's a tipping point in set location setting directions. Directing signals, that opens all communication line and position of placebo cortex line calculation setting in 4 settings and directions, right? So we walk the surface and set location to 1 set location, directing signals and set line connecting, line interference, crossing stream, and crossing stream in the line direction and set locations. Okay. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 lines of 1. Okay, so that's line connecting, high interference, and position locations. Prime numbers into odd and line conditions at even in set location system, directing signals, right? So this is a product line stream in an operation sequence and even line count, sets line directions, setting system and systematic line calculations into vector over pi. Now the overline setting overrides this calculation. The calculation line crosses streamlines and 2 lines of high calculation streamline in a box surface location setting in direct signal and set locations. Done by equation. All right. Okay. So understand the voice line box. A voice line box is a voice line channel. The line position location is the energy line setting. So it's get position location, line, and positions. So we go into 6 and we go into 9 line setting line conditions, right? That travels line stream interference, line setting location, S line rotations. 6 lines, drive communications and position. Double sequence line position of patterns. 3 lines of 6 and position of 4. 4 line settings. So 1, 2, 3, 4 set location directions. A 4 line center lines inference line position locations equal line connecting the highest setting. That's a prime number over lines that's 2 in position of 4 in position 6, 8, 10, and 12. 12 lines of signatures, 12 lines of panels, 12 line divisions, and 12 lines of sector location system into your diamond core or line center line interference, your tetrahedron, all calculated and modified to travel communication, graph lines, visual lines, screen lines, high operation string lines, crisscross calculation line directions and position locations, operation surface, line directing high line rotation positions, cloud channels, operation stream locations, and high calculation settings, indirect signal asset locations. Okay, done my question. Okay, so getting your position line settings, you really understand how to rotate the surface location of clock lines, clock and line rotations, and position locations, and 3 and 4 set locations. Okay, the center line sets position location of track. That opens up line position locations of the moon and operation location to its system. Now that travels line centers and line connecting, again, in set location in the line set location directions. Now, directing line signals understand line conditions of 3 set locations and directions. Now, this is where it gets tricky. The center line and position locations in position high setting comes into 4-track communication to its system. All right. Now, once you get into that line interference, Mother Earth has got to find her behavior line centers of balance positioned to her 5 signature line stream. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 of the center calculation line direction locations into her central calculation position of traction. Okay, done by equation. All right, so she set of locations, direction, data settings. So this puts a modifier line center location of circulation to the circuitry. Now the circulation, rotation line setting, directions, all right? Directing signals over lines of positions, air lines of 2-track communications. That's 2 lines in positions, equal line conditions of 4. Now that negative line in position of positive location setting, that directs the signal line interference and position locations. So we take the 4 lines into 3 and 3 lines of 4. So it's calculation of 7 lines in positions of 5. 12 line signatures, 12 line divisions, 12 line locations, and 12 line centers. Diamond core line interference, travel communications in its direct location setting, and Merkaba location. Okay, that my equation. All right, so binary reset codes. Directing signals and set locations to high interference is really understand how to set position location to your pyramid lines of your calculation line directions. All right, Stargate, star power goes, star locations, right? Now, a Stargate is line positioning, okay, to your cross signals. Cross line set locations, right? Plasma energy line stream and set location high center directions. So this is an open sequence locations in position levels, Fibonacci line stream in position east and west and set location in its directions. Okay, so this is where it gets tricky in set locations. 1 line center interference and track communication. Now, directing signals goes to the opposite line. This is an alpha line wave in set location locations. Okay? So setting signal line interference is line setting. Now, in that line rotation interference, we have 2 line rotation center directions, right? So 2 lines of tracks, south line and north wing, and line conditions at east wing and position of west wing, and set location of directions. Now, directing signals is understanding provide position location of track lines. So in that line interference, we take the 3 lines, the locations of pi, position north line, and we take the 3 line position location east and pi line, and we take the west and pi line, and we take the south view locations of pi, calculations of override, calculates line interference, sets up a line position locations, and directing line signals, okay, to another realm correlation set lines and high division locations of program set location directions. Now, in that position locations, this is where we come into all settings. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 location setting directions. Now, crossing position locations is 9 to division. Okay, sets the energy loss and communication to a spherical sphere line rotation surface and energy line rotation to its calculation setting and direct signals to sun of communications. That my equation. All right. So the correlation line is a hemisync line setting. So we got an H line rotations, right? Channel line stream crosses line direction system. Okay. So it's amazing how an H line setting becomes all calculations. So setting line position location on all levels and 2-line rotations. Directing signals in rotation surface and set location. Okay? Now, it gets complicated because you have to understand the line setting, how it comes into open sequence to pi records of time sequence. Now, this directs line signals. The standard calculation line interference is a clock line rotation surface and set locations. This directs signals and line interference. So we take 12 lines in position north, and we take 12 lines of east, 12 lines of west, and 12 lines of south. Okay? So we set up a barometer, thermometer line interference of south line, east line, west line, and north line communication and set location directions. See the intelligence? See Mother Earth? Setting line rotation is calculation of 3 set locations into your positions, into your line, sending to your Merkle position location attractions. Traveling too fast here. See? See how it's set locations? Now, when you get a line cross string, you set line calculation setting and direct signals to center calculations to your chakras. These redirect signals, line positions, opens all position your flux capacitor position of channel line stream location. Okay? That might be right. All right. Setting tone divisions. And when you set a tone division locations, you have to really understand how to set positions to your settings. So we go through all calculations into your voice line stream. Okay, directing signals and set location system in your barometer and your thermometer location settings. Directing a 9-line center 98 equal line calculation system. That's Celsius equal lines of pi and position of Fahrenheit calculation override. Okay, so calculation line directions into equal line conditions of 0, line position of 9, and 3 sets line in communication with settings. All right, so it's all set locations and voice lines of Mother Earth. 0 line position locations indicate 0. So this is where we come into negative inner line rotation interference. So that's position of air, correlation system, air, position of air, and position of air, and position of air. 3 central lines of air, equal lines of pi, 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 set lines of 3 lines. 3 division locations, factor over calculations. So 3 lines of 3, 3 lines of 3, 3 lines of 3, and set location directions. Center line position locations, communication line stream. Crosses over 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 lines of set lines, 4 into tracks of 6, crosses stream into Fibonacci. Circles line rotation surface and set location setting and calculations to a graph line stream locations in these directions. That my equation. Okay. So it's really complicated, right? Trying to understand how to set things up through energy graph lines, energy graph line streamline interference, voice box location channels, operation surface location, high position of track communication with settings. Now, Mother Earth is line setting the grounds line, a behavior location of channel. Okay, she operates in serve locations. But the electrical line interference is lines of ground lines or rotations and position locations into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ground location system. Okay, directing lines in 1 line, string line is set locations in position of laser direct signals and set location at 3 set location directions. Okay, so there's cross lines in the magnetic highway information line set location of center line. Now the sets line communications in position of east and position locations of west. Center lines in position location center. Directing signal line interference to travel communications. So this changes line center line interference and positions. You go into line calculation delta, line interference of theta, and position of set location of omega. Directing line interference. Now the sets communication of triangulation line sets. Sets line communicating. Monotone device line rotation interference. Mechanism time sequence location of pi calculates the center of operation string locations. Done by equation. All right, so voice box line channel of Mother Earth is now at a balanced line behavior location of true colors and rotation surface and directions. Okay, done by equation. But it's amazing how you set location of graph lines, right? All through schematics. Okay, it's all set up. So, how's everybody doing so far in set location? I know it's way beyond recognition, timelines, anything beyond that you can understand through fathom locations, any directions. Okay, Gypsy, Tina, line interference, calculation on levels, Geneva, Prismore. It's great to see everybody. Happy smiles, directing signals, locations, battle. All right, Gingy. Gingy's doing well. She's better. Good. Melissa, how you doing? David. So we all have to understand how this all works in set locations, Andy. All right, center, calculation line, interference. It's already done, but you can't see it. See, I have to show you, because if I don't show you, you're not going to understand how it's set up locations already in the system. This is not a blank piece of paper. You just can't see it through vibration. But it's there through equation. But where does it come from? All line setting inside locations in your mind. Okay, so when you get in that direct signals, you center line your communication stream. Now, when you center line, you have to be very cautious on what you're doing through tone division. Remember I said location settings, your radio location of channels, so you don't create pattern positions of division location of paradox stream locations, because it will paradigm your shift lines of polarities. And that polarity will set a communication opposition location in your settings. So now you have to be very cautious of what you're doing through positions of levels of your thought lines, because your thoughts are all coordinating line interference. Thoughts lines set like in high interference. So satellite division locations. One letter is one satellite position. Let me say that again. Satellite equals thoughts. Oh my gosh. Whoa, where is that coming from? All right, so we get a line, center line interference, a satellite communication, planet line, center line interference, rotational location, earth line, center calculation, sun position location, and moon operation surface. All right, satellites equals thoughts. All right, welcome back. Center channel lines operational line stream is set a correlation system to your panel's operating location settings. So the moon line's rotation surface and set location system and how it travels its line calculated setting indirect signals of panels of operation. So the rotation lines of the sun now is set positions to Mother Earth and higher positions of its energy line calculating the line position location to its system position attraction. Okay. So I'm just showing you how Mother Earth is setting locations now. Directing lines, center line operation location and settings. 3 sets, 4, 5, 6. So you guys are in 6 lines of calculations in direct location system, directing signals. So we set up line calculating and 1 position of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 location of orbs. Okay. Orbit channel line stream the spectrum communication setting directions. Setting signals and center line of operation of balance in program locations in its direct signal and set location that it travels. Okay, see it? Got my equation. Okay. Yep. It's all connected in position of track lines and high division locations there, Andy. So you have to really understand that you're reaching higher calculation string lines. And so location of your thoughts are calculated and modified to your satellite positions. Satellite line conditions, ground line operation, right? Sets position of track communication. So this is you in the ground line. Okay, this is you, position locations. Voice and grid lines through thought locations. Right, so your thoughts are creating line settings. So through line interference, everything you channel in, you go from 0, 1, in position of 2. So it's your behavioral location of channels, operational locations. So you have 0 lines in position 9 into 12 line settings. Remember, you change communication to 12 around twice, it goes to 24. What goes after 24? 48, 72, 144. So every thought goes to that setting every single second. Through 24, to 48, to 72, to 144. All right, so now you understand position, location, and travel line settings. In that direct signal, in center position, you have to understand the operation to its surface location to its center line connections. All right, so this is your voice box channels in all position locations in line positions to your graph line locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Channel position locations in your down lines and position your pyramid line rotation surface and film strip location setting and direct signals and set locations. Okay. So the pyramid line center line rotation interference has a visionary cortex line setting. That's a direct location system where it comes into alpha line, delta, theta, omega, gamma, radiation line setting string locations. Directing signals of graph lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now we cross the string lines of alpha line, division line, theta line, beta communications, all levels of dimensional line, ground line, operation, all levels, calculation, position of track, communication, setting, directions. See how it's set under its location system? So what are we creating line interference? A dimensional location of a sail. You see it? Very powerful location system. So what you're doing is you're creating your pyramid string line into a line connection of a sail. The sail sets line, graph line, center line interference of alpha, delta, theta, beta, omega. But the center communication line interference has to understand the center communication setting that's connected to your galaxy location system. And so weather pattern correlation directions in set location direction systems. So once you channel line setting, you understand the connection of the dimensional graph line and where it comes into dimensional sail location. So it's projection. See how it coordinates line communications? All right. But I'm just showing you how it satellites its settings. So what's happening right now is your thought lines are creating dimensional lines. So in line rotation, it sets line communication in the lines of seconds, and it has position location of 3-second lines of channel, which is a 60,000 line setting. That's a rotation to 1 minute, 1 channel, 1 operation, 1 stream, 1 location, and a 24 ground signal and set locations. But remember, every time you use a second line channel in your thought communication setting, you have to break these things down through letters, numbers, and shapes. You break down the code string line interference, it creates line communication setting directions. So once you understand how to create the dimensional sail, you're in balanced position location of your projected location to your sun of lights and travel communication of lights and shadows through your pyramid activation line stream and visionary cortex of recalculating and set locations of communication. Okay? Multi-pass. All right, we're going to save that setting because we're going to come back to that set locations. All right, so how's everybody doing through line position locations? Mega pass, isn't it? Right? So now you understand the importance, what your thoughts are doing in set location settings. What are you doing position attraction? If you put a negative line rotations, let's go with the calculation of lines. This is what happens in a second line channel. If your behavioral location changes line setting. Now, if you're mocking line interference, let's say you're in position locations into 1 mile, calculation line interference into cluster line, position location communications into coordinates, setting calculations into Saturn and set location directions. Now, Saturn line sets lines of communication, rotation, and location to its settings. Ground lines a circle line or rotation to its position location and trunk communication system. But it multitudes, communications, collaboration to all levels of all calculation. So we all have to understand how to use the interline calculation settings directly the signals, because the set location to your settings is your behavior location when it comes to your keyboards, key locks, and key frames. You have to really understand how to use your calculator modify of remembering set line calculation settings to your keyboard location system. Right? Understanding the Q line. There's the Q line. Q equals line. Okay? Q equals line, right? Now, if Q equals line, calculates lines of bandwidth inside location system contraction, right? Bandwidth lines of lines all levels widens the set location line interference of clock location system directions. So you have to really understand how to set position locations of the quantum lines into position located bandwidth and line connections of all calculation line stream and set locations into its positional clock line stream. Directing signals is set location system and all track communications. So you're always working with 0 equals 9, 3 lines and line connections of 12 and set locations. Okay? So we all have to learn how to use positions. Now, when you understand how to use the equal line setting, there's the equal line setting locations, right? Tracking communications, but it gets tricky when it goes line interference. Track communications into down lines and positions to all set location directions. So it gets confusing, right? So it's all about symbolizing its set lines and high interference of triangulation of 3 set locations, or triangulation line position locations into a diamond core line setting, directing line interference of 3 line interference and track communication in directions. Setting signal line interference. So putting letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols to all together line interference to create a new Merkava position of travel calculation line stream and set location system of travel communication. Okay. So causing hindrance is caused through you, through line position locations, because you don't understand what you're doing through the seconds, minutes, and the hours of the day to your set locations. This is connecting line settings, right? So Mother Track is now in semester and line setting, coming into all calculations. Tomorrow levels, we're going to be in 10 set locations into the galactic line string. That's going to get very complicated because now we're opening up line center locations into firmament settings. Now this puts position track line communication. There's paradigms, polar shifts, polarity shifts, calculation stream interference, 3 panels line, operational line, and interference, infinity 8 position of track communication. Doesn't look like much, right? But it's everything through your T reception line string locations. It's all direct signals, antenna, set position, right? Signal lines are center communications. Remember, you're always using 3 and 3 of space and time as set location to create line setting and all levels of opening connections to a portal of calculation string location, right? Remember that. It's very simple to understand these things. So the product system is setting line positions, okay? So capital I, right? Now the line rotation sets position of triangulation. I'm just showing you how this works. So you set up an alpha delta channel line rotational line direction and set location to its position. Center lines is operational lines. You're always going to be working with circuit location settings and directions. So you have to really understand how to use the binary reset location of code lines as center position. Now that sets up a magnetic line of a channel. Now you use the data box string location in the center communications, right? That directs the signals into box frequency and set location of travels and set location of your thought settings. Okay, down by question. Okay, so now you understand position location and what your thoughts are doing. Every second, every minute, every hour of your day. Okay. Set a negative line interference sets all communication center line. This is what's going to happen line position your voice line, streamline communication system, back force, back force, back force, back force, back force, back force, back force. So you're creating anomalies of dark round communication setting and sprinkler communication directions in the opposite location system and all position location and track communication. Your dimensional sail has to go forward, not backwards. You see what I'm saying? See how it's set up? So you get the energy graph, you set position of track line communication. See the dimensional graph? You see the dimensional sail, but it's the opposite way, right? So what happens when factor line position? It tips over in set locations. Directed signals offline, okay? Directed signals offline in position location. Multipass. So we all have to understand how this works in all ways and forms. You have seconds on channel. Now you got a 1 minute graph line. But that center position location is no longer in existence. The set position location track communications. Anything you say negative line interference changes the dimensional sail of rotation location. All right. So now you understand the important location is being force direction of time sequence. Okay. So we go back in locations, descending in direction locations to your dimensional sail. Going forward and not back. Okay? It's a good way to look at your pyramid line center rotation, your visionary cortex stream locations, right? Energetic graph, you're working 4 galaxy line setting. 4. Northwest, south, and east. Now you have to learn how to use the correlation lines of 3 panel line positions. 1, 1, 1. Okay? 2 panels in position of security. 1, 1, 2. 2 panels at Fibonacci. 1, 1, 3. Okay? And 2 panels of solar generation lines of 1, 1, 4. Summer, spring, winter, fall. All have to coordinate in a graph line of a dimensional sail, project location of the lights on the sun, pyramids line rotation, film projector line calculation ending, indirect location to all calculation streamline that connects all lines at hieroglyphic location channels and center lines of spherical sphere and set location system of your energetic graph and your rotation surface and your geometry line rotations into your position locations to your chart set location into the astrological communication setting and direct signals at alpha, delta, theta, beta, and omega and set locations in high settings in a radiation line interference and set location of the sun and project location of your moon of operation surface and behavior location setting and direct signal locations in set line position. Multi-pass. Okay? That's all information locations that create line set location, dimensional set locations. Okay? Okay. Very confused, are we? Well, I'm just showing you exactly what you guys are coming into line setting and really starting the position location of track lines, your behavior locations to its system, because you have to be in the center calculations to your dimensional sets. of set locations. Okay. So, well, I know I'm just trying to get you guys in form lines, really stand position of track communication and what's going on with your setting positions, operation at the surface, right? Because the thing is, you guys have to really connect your positions to your body track location settings. So this is what is location system of, right? There's the Earth, right? Okay, the Earth line has perception locations and directions. Now there's a center communication and center line interference, okay, directing signals. So we got calculate and modify lines, all calculation line directions, fire ratio time sequence locations of patterns, directing line settings. And then we get the ethers and set locations, right? And then we get the core line channel, right? And then we get the communication line setting in direct locations into negative lines, into positive location system, equal line conditions, all levels, thought states, and position of center. All right. So this is about understanding how everything works in set location near Earth line rotations. So every time you voice line the center line interference, every time you set a negative line, the calculations to your dimensional sail goes in the up direct location system, but it creates its line setting, right? Creates its line setting, right? Creates its line setting. See what I'm creating? Dimensional sail going forward. Forward lines is a positive line, circle line, rotation surface. That's communication to the sun line, comes in position location of track communications, directing signals. If you set a negative cycle line interference in set location system, you're setting alpha, delta, theta, vega in backline setting. Waving cycles in this line communications going back in set line communication line crossing stream location settings, directing offline streams, center calculation, not in direct locations of balanced set location. That's not a dimensional sail. So every time you channel your thoughts, that's what you're doing through creation. You're trying to create a volume. And that volume has to create line positions of a wave central line communication. It's like music. It's like rhythm. It's like orchestra. It's like symphony. It's like, whoa, da, da, da. Like I said, if you see a piece of paper and it's a windy day, you put it on the ground, you can actually see it create its own story of where it goes in position. It goes like this, turns like that. It goes like this, goes back down. It's music. It's harmony. But it's creating this dimensional sail so it can travel forward. You think it's going back. No, it's directing its system and going forward. Nothing goes back. Everything goes forward. Okay? So all you're doing is mind shifting your lock settings and creating location higher line positions. How you use it through placebos is upward line interference of balanced communication in your thought settings. But you got seconds on channel of operational locations and 9 settings and 3 seconds on position to get into 12 line signal locations. Going around twice is 24. Going around a line interference is 48. That's 3 line tracks, right? Going around again is 72. Going around again is 144. That's the second channel operation stream that creates its division. So every time you channel through your letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols that you're creating through your thoughts, you are creating line settings, a graph location of streams, to create the dimensional sail of fortitude light connection to stream location. Okay? Now you understand where your thoughts are going? Now you understand the importance of location to a system? So, the direct signal to your space line setting is nothing but magnetic. It's magnetic. If you get a bunch of marbles and you throw it up, right? You got a positive line, you get a negative line. Whatever's positive is going to go to that direction. So whatever's negative is going to that direction. So if you throw them all at once and you're positive, they're all going to go in the same direction. See? That's how it works. You're working with metal with metal. The only difference is that your space is inside line sending location to your system. And this is how it coordinates the position of your track lines of seconds, minutes, and hours of the day locations. How you do it through your behavioral location system is totally up to you through integration. This determines what happens next in locations, okay? Argumented reality. Yeah, there is a set location to setting position locations. But like I said, you can't be in negative cycles because you offline your positions to your sales. Remember, you're always working with the ground lines, the earth line rotation. It's got to be balanced positions. So all the earth is trying to understand you or what you're doing in set location to your settings. So you got the operation surface, you got the power line rotations, and you got the calculation positions of the atmosphere line settings, right? Try to understand the process, how this all works inside locations, right? It all determines what happens when your positions to your thinking comes into knowing and doing to set locations, right? All right, so get in that channel stream location, put your high calculation settings, directed signals. So you got a 0 lines, set position location of 9, position of 3, 6, and position location of 7. Okay. Now the inhibitor line rotations, center lines is communications, which is indicating line interference. So that's 4 lines of inhibitors, equal line calculation, setting interference, flux fibers, communications, directing signals and set location setting, and Fibonacci sequence and set locations. All right. So you have to understand the 3 lines, equal lines of 3. And 3 lines, 3 heart, mind, and soul, directing signals, right? Travel communication directions into its own flux fast communication. Now, directing signal line interference is 4 line settings and another 4 line position locations. Center calculation line stream and position location of yin and yang are process calculation, right? Everything I say is balanced. Why? Why is it balanced? Why is it balanced? Because I'm master communication alignment inside setting. So everything I say, if it's negative, it's always positive. So everything I say is never negative. It's always positive because it always finds a way to retract communication and create the dimensional sail going forward instead of going back. The sync calculation line and position location is mind adaptation surface. So recognizing these things through your frequency set lines and communication system gets you in grounds of operation of balanced communications. How to line setting line positions to your 9s, your 6s, your 7s, or your 3 location settings, indirect line interference into your triangulation, into your position locations to your Merkaba position locations channel of operation. So you just have to coordinate. Really understand how to calculate position location of travel settings. Really understand how to use your satellite center location, your position, your thoughts. Yes. Now you know what thoughts are. So we all have to understand how this all works and always informs, because the more you understand yourself inside location, the more you understand the vibration of what it's doing, because it's centerline communications going positive and negative. It doesn't matter. What matters is how many dimensional line sails are you creating in set location setting to your position, right? You got 42 light streams over here and negative lines, and you got line stream location settings of block surface locations of center lines. So it's all position location and trunk line. So in that position location, you have to learn it how to set position to your behavior location settings and basically say something before you know exactly what you're going to say. Know exactly how to set the tone, know exactly how to set the measure. Scale lines of balance calculation streamline has to really recognize your communications when you come into interline calculation setting directions. Mind and navigation, parts, timelines, very, very powerful stuff. The body is nothing but consciousness of GOD. Once you understand that recognition time sequence, you can't go wrong, because that's the foundation of graph lines that you use every single day in cell location system. And the soul is all identified communication of light through projection. It's so simple to understand these things, guys. You guys are 5 element setting locations. How to use it, because the thing is, if you're not grounded in the abstract line setting, you're going to very, very in position location off system. Triangulation line interference is not going to put you in the ground operation. As soon as you change your thoughts, you change the grounds. Whoa, huge. Because I'm on the ground set locations. You're in your simulation, but the problem is that you're changing the ground lines. So what is that doing? It's changing your dimensional sail to your correlation in the line position. So you're creating the sun line position projecting through light, and you're creating light shades and shadow location, behavior locations of center lines, high calculation, human res locations, indirect locations to your sail. Okay, so we all have to learn how to modify the set locations of mind and navigation first, in directions. Heart of timelines, body of consciousness, higher level calculation GOD, and modification lines of line travel line interference in position to your avatar set locations of integrate line settings in all calculations to its quantify highest locations of travel. Okay? Yeah. But it's very powerful when you understand what you are doing with your thought settings. All right. So now you know, right? And where is it going in set location system? Because the thing is, the one thing you guys have to understand, the mind of space has to be open. It can't have thoughts. Because if it has thoughts, you have to understand you are setting line connections to confusion. Because the thing is, your lifeline is already set up. Your direct signal location and your presentation line calculation, your avatar is already set up. So every time you change your thought line, you change your alignment set location string setting into your dimensional sail and set locations. See, people don't understand that, so they do that. But if you stay in set locations, you'll be fine in set locations of your sails. See how powerful that is? All three alpha, delta, theta, beta, and mega location, radiation, line setting locations. All three pyramids, rotation, line setting, center of operation to its position. Okay? Your thoughts go north, west, east, or south. Okay, let me say it again. Your thoughts, your correlations, your letters, your words, your symbols, anything line interference, anything that comes out of your mouth line rotation interference, voice square line interference, goes north, east, west, or south. Now that depends on your behavior location setting. You have seconds on channel, seconds on operation, seconds on surface, and seconds in position. Now, that's on second line setting. How fast are you going through acceleration? If you're going through 1 million channel line stream interference as a location system, are you in positive line setting or are you in a negative line rotation? You got to ask yourself that location to a system. So the more you stay in line setting, the more you stay in the center line operation, the more you focus on your set location system and stop worrying about these things. Because every time you worry the line communication system, you're changing your timeline sequence. Now, in that set line communication setting, it's already set a location of provision, but you have to understand how to use the correlated interference is bringing your calculations to the breadcrumbs of your dimensional sail of going forward in set location and navigation. Okay? This is just a reminder of what you have to do in set locations. So every time you get up in the morning, this is what you come into. Every single day. But every single day is the same line setting line interference. You have to recognize not the days of the week, because it doesn't exist location of space line. The expansion is line setting on so many communication at all levels of your bandwidth in correlations to exploration. You have to learn how to use it through provision. So center communication line interference and set location system. This is a dimensional sail. How does it travel? How does this travel? How does this travel? Zero gravity, rotating, archetype line setting, flux capacitor, chakra line rotation setting, block line rotations, 4 line calculation mechanism setting line interference. Each block line has a light signature line position. See the light? Showing the location setting, see? Look at that. Look how powerful it is. See? See the symbols lines? Correlation line stream, indirect location system, directing signals, light signature locations, travel line settings, direct location system, travel, travel, travel. See it, travel, travel, travel. See, travel, travel, travel. See, that's all it does. Travel, travel, travel. It's not complicated. It's easy to understand through light traction. Right? It's amazing how you come into these line division locations. But you have to understand the graph line string location to a system, right? Travel, see? Traveling. See how powerful it is? Look, traveling. See? It's communicating with you. Traveling, right? All through light. So this here, this square right here, body consciousness. Body consciousness. Light through travel, your soul. Mind adaptation, navigation, traveling. Whoa, look at that. Okay? And heart through timeline is the center operation of your set locations. All right? Now you know what it is. Right? So try to get into that position. Try to understand how to communicate to all settings. Okay? The yin and yang of the process is trying to understand your behavior location setting direct signals now, because Mother Earth is coming in hard these line directions, right? She's coming into 2-digit frame lines, 2-digit code line stream locations, right? 2-digit number frame positions or operation surface. We have to recognize the communication to our ground lines of operation, how our Earth is in projection to our settings, right? Knowing exactly how fast your Earth is going. Don't you want to know that? I think that'd be amazing to know how fast your Earth is going to get location to its system. It's already in a future adaptation line. Your Earth is already set up. It's done. You have to catch up to the line interference to experience, to know exactly the conversion to its convulsion that sets line position location to your settings, your standing location to a system, because your Earth is nothing but a feeding source of emotional location setting and electrical line connection. It's all setting your position locations to your heart. Okay, releasing is extremely powerful communications. All right, understanding the mind and navigation is the process of understanding its position to travel. Understanding your body, square body, diamond body. But remember, there's not just one side, there's not just two sides, there's all sides to this location system. To understand this is to understand the whole circulation line connections of rotation. Right? So we're done through equation. Okay, I just set up line settings, no exact location and position track line. But we're coming into 10 setting. 2-digit number line interference. Really got to get a body track location of balance now. The energy lights, energy track, communication, or binaries has to really understand the cryokinetic line of rotation and interference, the psychological communication setting. Everything that I say is in chronological order. Everything I do is in chronological order. Everything I say is in chronological order. Everything I say is in balance of chronological order. Everything is position locations in yin yang of crossing signals. You can cross a signal set location system, but know exactly what you're doing through provision location of your thoughts. Right? Because they're going all different line signature, line condition on levels of north, west, south, and east. Every single second location in minutes to the hour location system. And you have a 24 line setting, right? So you have to learn to understand that every time you say something, it's going through the seconds, going through the minutes, going through the hours. And that second is determining what happens next. And this is where we come into all calculation modification to a system of variable change. Okay? So you have to be very cautious in what you're doing with your thought lines because it changes communication settings to your satellite directions. You're directing your thought. Can't find a signal. So you don't have a signal. Your thought's not going anywhere except location directions because you're thinking too much. It's just going to, but it's transmitting, receiving. Boom. You got something. Got a frequency line center location of Pluto. Comes back to you. Body reaction. Boom. Changes line setting. Changes sectors over pi. Now the calculation modification is line directing your settings. Now really understand how to use the telepathy signatures through telekinesis to set location, position, location operation. Okay? So these things have to be understood to be understanding to its locations. So powerful, guys. It really is. Really understand the locations. But this is extremely powerful. This is what happens every single time you create your thought set locations. Okay? All right. So that's it. We're all done through equation line setting and directions. 5 to 10 minutes. So see you soon. Adios.